listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. I'm a relationship coach, and I help people who are engaging in anything they think counts as infidelity to deal with their feelings, clarify what they want, and make decisions about what they're going to do. No shame, no blame, no judgments. If you're ready to talk about your infidelity situation, you can schedule an introductory coaching session with me through my website, mariemurphyphd.com. I offer confidential, compassionate coaching via Zoom, so we can work together no matter where you're located. Today, I have a real treat for you. I have the pleasure of talking with Loretta, who is in her early 50s and has been having an affair for 2.5 years. Her husband has Alzheimer's disease, and their roles have changed from wife and husband to mother and son. As her husband's disease has led to many changes, Loretta has taken on a tremendous responsibility as his caregiver and lost many of the things she considers essential to a happy relationship and a happy life, including sex. She felt extremely sad, frustrated, and downright angry at this turn of events in her life and found herself wondering, is this it? Is figuring out how I'm going to pay the nursing home costs that will be necessary in my husband's future all I have to look forward to? She decided that the answer to this question was going to be no. Loretta is here with me today to tell her infidelity story and shed some light on the enormous burden caregivers bear and erase some of the stigma associated with infidelity when one spouse is sick or incapacitated. Hi, Loretta. It's great to have you here today.
Hi, Marie. It's wonderful to be here too. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My pleasure. So let's kind of tell your story from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your marriage and bring us up to the point of your husband's Alzheimer's diagnosis.
Okay. So I've been married about 20 years. And the first 13 years or so were maybe 12 years were, pretty good. Right around the 12-year mark, I definitely started not being interested in my husband sexually anymore. But that was before he got sick. He just, he started not being someone that I was interested in that way. And I think most people or a lot of people can relate to that in the longer marriage. Things start to get a little tricky. So I still was sort of taking one for the team, if you will, every 3 months or so. My husband traveled an awful lot, so I was home alone a lot, which I really enjoyed. But he'd, every 3 months get a little antsy, and I would sort of give in quickly, hopefully within 5 minutes, and keep the peace for another few months. And eventually, I just got sick of that, and I basically stopped having sex with him altogether. Probably at the same time that things were starting to be apparent that he was, having trouble with memory and struggling at work, and things were starting to get difficult. And that's when I started taking him to a neurologist, and started the whole journey toward the diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
Okay. So tell us about that. What happens when the diagnosis is handed down?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a long time in the making. It's not something that happens quickly because they diagnose, at the beginning, you have mild cognitive impairment. They accidentally diagnosed him with ADHD. They don't necessarily know right away, but I knew that something bad was going on and it was getting worse. And he was unable to do a lot of the things that he used to be able to do. And he eventually had to quit his, he's a consultant, software consultant. He eventually had to quit that job. He just absolutely couldn't do it. He traveled every week. There was no way he could manage it. And at that point, obviously, I totally knew. And it's scary because, he was the primary breadwinner too. And he's retiring, earlier than we had anticipated. So, and so after that, he continued to work, but, at like big box stores or places he could get employment. And I kept taking him to the neurologist because I knew that things were wrong. And eventually we were handed the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and that was last year. but I had known for a couple, I mean, I knew it was some form of dementia. I didn't know what the name was going to be, but I knew,
Sure.
and then with the spinal tap, they can determine it is in fact Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So there we are.
So what's the quality of your relationship like in these few years between recognizing that something is seriously amiss and the diagnosis?
Oh my God, it's horrible. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just, it's bad in so many ways. I mean, it breaks my heart for him because he's still completely aware of the fact that he's just losing it. And he can't, he can't do so many of the things he used to be able to do easily. So
Sure.
it's difficult. And then he's angry on top of that.
Sure.
And I am, taking care of him. I'm having to handle everything. I mean, I always handled a lot of the bills and those kinds of things. So I'm really grateful that I did, because that would have been awful. But, he doesn't drive anymore. I drive him everywhere. He, anything social. I mean, he really isn't very social. I try to take him out, but he's completely dependent on me at this point. He does still work at like a big box store, which is fantastic. They know he has Alzheimer's actually, and they're helpful. But I have to pack his lunch. We have to get up at 4:30 a.m. for a 6 a.m. start because we need to make sure that we have our phone and we have our hearing aids. And are you wearing your shoes? Did you put your shirt on right? And so it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And then I have to direct him constantly when he's not working. I leave a big, sheet of to-dos for him, and maybe he gets through some of them, or maybe he doesn't get through any. And it's just, I'm his mom completely at this point.
Right. I when we chatted earlier, I think you described him as like your autistic child.
Yeah. Right. And as the disease progresses, he becomes younger and younger. He sort of, I call it Benjamin buttoning. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but he just kind of keeps getting younger and more dependent on me as it goes.
Yeah.
So, and he hates it. That's the other problem, is that he's completely aware of what's going on. And he hates that I feel like his mother. He wants to be sexual with me. He wants to have that intimate relationship. He can't stand the fact that, it's turned this way. And he fights me on it all the time. And he's forever saying, we could be intimate. I just want to, and I'm like, no, no way. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Tell us, two questions. Like first, just like tell us a little bit about your emotional experience of all this. Like you go from having a partner to having a dependence.
Yeah.
Right. So, Talk about that a little bit.
Right. He was my life partner. I mean, even though we weren't necessarily having sex, before he got sick, he was absolutely my life partner. We planned things together. We were planning our future, planning what was going to happen when he did retire. And, my daughter was in grade school and then in high school, and planning on all of the things for her. And that just went by the wayside as he got sicker. And so basically a few years ago, I was, it's actually really funny. I'm a runner and a walker, and I was listening to lots of music, and it's all sentimental and about like that new relationship energy and lovers and all of the things. And I'm walking and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, I am never going to have this again. I'm never going to feel like this again, because I'm in this marriage. My husband will probably live quite a long time. He's super healthy. And I'm just never going to feel that way again. I'm so jealous of these songs. It hit me over the head that I want that. Do I have to live without that forever?
Yeah.
So that's got
what happened next? So tell us what happened next.
So that got my wheels turning, and I've been in therapy for a while just to sort of deal with this. I have a fantastic. She's not but she's, I can be extremely open with her. And tell her everything. And so about 3 years ago, we started thinking about, I need to add something to my life. I mean, I just can't, I need more. And I started thinking, well, should I go back to school? Should I, volunteer somewhere? Will that bring me joy? And then finally, during one of our sessions, I looked at her and said, Jesus, I just need to get laid.
Yeah.
And she said, you know what? That's actually not a bad, idea. She's like, you're missing the physical touch. You're missing the intimacy. You're missing the excitement of, a relationship. She's like, have you thought about it? And I was like, I have, but I don't know what to do. So we talked, we had several more sessions and just kept talking about it. And I finally said, maybe I should just go on Ashley Madison and see what happens. And so I created a little bio, and I was so freaked out. This is the weirdest thing ever. But I went on, and, lo and behold, as a woman, I didn't realize I'm in a large metro area. So, I mean, oh my gosh, the amount of responses was sort of overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you really have to weed through a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
so that was cool. Then I was weeding through and chatting with a couple of people, and all of this was just bizarre. Like this whole idea that I was going to maybe have sex with somebody. It's been so long.
Yeah.
But it turns out after all of the guys that that I was corresponding with or whatever, I didn't love any of them.
Okay.
So I sat down one night with a bottle of wine and went through all of the posts in my metro area from men and decided to contact some of them directly.
Oh, okay.
Turns
Yeah.
out I contacted one guy who responded, and we started talking right away. Clicked immediately. I met him within about 3 days. I had sex with him within about 6. It was wonderful, and that's my AP, who I've been with for 2.5 years.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, and it's been so fantastic for me. Marie,
Tell us all about that.
So I've learned, okay, so first of all, I'm having needs met that I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of time together, and I get that. First of all, I get the friendship, and that's somebody I can rely on. I count, he helps me with a lot of things. I can tell him anything. I can lean on him when things are difficult. He's there to sort of help me, which is amazing. Better than a best friend. He's even better than that, because I can have sex with him too. And it's really hot. We're still really hot for each other. And I think part of that is because it is a forbidden thing or something that's limited. And so, if I was living with him all the time or married to him, I'm sure it would be a totally different. But because of our circumstance, it's still really hot. And so he's also, my life is just so much happier.
Yeah.
So I ended up being a much better mother, as it turns out. My daughter was in high school, and she even one day looked at me and said, Mom, you've been so happy lately. What's going on with you? And so I was like, whoa, okay, yeah. And then as far as my husband, I don't lose patience anymore. I'm a better caregiver. I'm easier with him. I'm not so angry. I can really work with him, tell him I love him, tell him I'm here for him. I feel really good about taking care of him, because it is something I want to do. But now I have my AP, and I can kind of live in both worlds and be the best me that I can be because of this. I mean, it's done nothing but positive things in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. So what do you say to the idea that, if you say till death do us part, and for better or worse, and sicker and whatever, and all the things, like, what do you say to the idea that you're just supposed to be a martyr if your spouse becomes severely incapacitated or otherwise unable to continue being a partner in the sense that you thought you were signing up for?
Yep. Well, I mean, I am to death do us part, because I'm not going anywhere, and I am going to take care of him. It's something that I really want to do. Yeah. But no, I have one life, Marie. I mean, I'm in my early 50s. What am I supposed to do? Just sit back and go, oh, well, I can't do it. It's wrong. You can't cheat on your husband. I mean, that's a load of crap.
Right.
He doesn't know. And I'm better to him for it.
Right.
So he's actually benefiting by my having an outlet, I mean, it's just, I don't have any guilt. Yeah. And I know that that's probably not normal. I think a lot of people probably do.
Slow down. Okay. Slow down. So this is what I think is so important about your story, or one of the things that I think is so important about your story. We have these ideas about what we're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And, these ideas may have come into being for valid historical reasons. And I say that to be generous, of course, right? But does it even count as cheating if your partner doesn't know and can't understand what's actually going on? That's not a question that a lot of people throw around for consideration.
Right. I think that it's in a different camp than other things. But I have, regardless of his mental situation, I have needs that aren't being met. Had I stayed in our marriage, our sexless marriage, would I have gotten to this point anyway, even if he wasn't sick? Possibly.
Yeah.
So I feel like I understand if people want to judge or if people, have different ideas about it. But for me, I have one life and
Right.
I'm not about to be a martyr or deny myself certain basic needs,
Yeah.
meeting certain basic needs just because my husband is sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey,
so,
let me just see if I can call up something that you mentioned when we chatted before. I think you said something about some of the kind of comments you've heard about, like, the martyrdom syndrome when your
sure.
partner's unable to have sex. Like, tell us about that stuff. Give us some
Oh,
detail.
yeah, I mean, okay, so I belong to a lot of support groups, okay,
Right,
and they're
right, right, right.
basically Facebook groups more than anything, and it tends to be more women than men, just because I think women, seek out conversation and discussion more than men do. So, and there are, thousands and thousands of members in some groups,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's just I there's no discussion of this. I mean, you
yeah,
discuss everything from changing diapers to poop to, I mean, anything you can think of.
yeah,
And there is no discussion about this.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
people will say, oh, I miss my husband, I miss the intimacy. But
yeah,
God forbid if I put something on there like, is anyone, having an affair? Holy moly. I put
yeah.
something out there about, I alluded to it in some way, and I got a ton of responses that were, well, you're married, you've made a vow,
Right,
that's what you do. And
right,
I just said, oh, maybe I'm not going to talk about this. So it's a
right,
taboo subject. And you know
right.
what? I don't believe that I am the only person that feels this way. I mean,
No, no.
caregivers have it really difficult, that we have a hard time. I can't believe that other women in my positions haven't thought seriously about this. So I guess I wanted to bring attention to this. And maybe
Yeah,
if you have a listener or listeners that are in my situation, they can relate and
yeah,
feel better about what they're thinking or doing, because it's normal. I don't think that this is
yeah.
wrong, and I don't.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, it's so interesting. I find this endlessly fascinating in so many ways. But I remember when I was probably in grade school, my parents, who were quite socially liberal in some ways, but not
Mhm.
in all ways, and understanding of some things, but not others. They were talking about, I think it was one of my classmates' parents who had just died of some like awful degenerative disease,
Mhm.
and they had talked about the surviving spouse who had a friend, right?
Mhm.
And they were saying like, thank God he must have had someone all along, because it was like this new partner like emerged like, basically like the day after the funeral or
Mhm.
whatever. And they
Mhm.
were like, "Oh, that's so good for him." And I remember being very confused about this at the time. And
Mhm.
I probably asked them questions that would sound, a little ignorant if coming from my older self, but they were like, "Can you imagine what it's like to have a spouse who's in bed all the time and can't talk to you? Can
Mhm.
you imagine the strain that this person was under taking care of someone who they thought was going to be an involved life partner for the rest of their life?"
Mhm.
And so, I
Mhm.
mean, they really like broke it down to me that like this isn't bad.
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, when this happens, your whole life as the spouse is flipped upside down too.
Right.
Everything I planned for my future is gone.
Right.
All of the plans we made, all of the things I thought I'd be doing
Right.
are gone. I mean,
Right.
I'm in a completely different world than I thought I would be, and I'm in my early 50s, so I'm hoping I have a little bit of time left. And
Right.
right, and so it's just everything's flipped on its head, and I needed things to help me get through this, and one of them was finding an AP that I
Right.
have
Right.
that I have good sex with.
Right. Right. Okay. So there are two things that I really want to talk about here. One thing that I think is so interesting and important to draw out about all this is that there are many ways of remaining a devoted partner to someone,
Absolutely.
right? It
Hmm.
sounds like you are doing one hell of a job
Thank
of
you.
being this for your spouse,
Yep,
right?
I'm here in the morning when he gets up. I get up with him hours before he works. I take him to work. I make his dinner. I make sure he's eating healthy. I manage all of his medical care, which is immense. He's in a study, a
Hmm.
clinical trial, which is fantastic. I worked so hard to get him into
Oh,
that.
I'm sure you did.
So we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with that. And I'm home with him every night. We go to bed together. I make sure. So, I mean, I'm here with him all of the time. I get to spend
Yeah.
time with my AP in the afternoons. I'm self-employed, so I do have time during the day to kind of get away. And
Yeah.
so does he. So
Wait,
we're
hang on,
able to
hang on.
meet.
We'll
Mhm,
get there. But
mhm,
there's just another thing I really want to draw out. I mean, it
mhm.
sounds like you give your husband so much love.
I do. I mean, I really try. Let's put it this way. I try to the
Yeah.
best I can. It's a really frustrating situation. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to scream because it's like, find your shoes. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
where's your hearing aid? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he needs that love. He is lost. He is really sad. He is completely aware of what's happening to him.
Sure.
And it scares the crap out of him.
Sure.
And I need to be there for him, to tell him that I'm here for him. I'm gonna be here for him. I'm not going anywhere. I've got him. But that's a big burden on me. Because nobody's got me.
Right.
I'm it.
Right.
So that's another reason for looking for a friend. I mean, I need somebody in my life that I can lean on a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So what I really want to call out here for folks who are listening and maybe going like, huh, to all of this is like, on the one hand, it's wonderful to engage in profound acts of generosity. And on the other hand, it's completely legitimate to have your own experience of this situation and your own emotional needs as an individual, even if you remain a committed partner, right? And one of the things that I think is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Unhelpful about our shared discourses about relationships in general, not just when infidelity is concerned, is that if you're part of a couple, then the couple relationship or the marriage relationship supersedes your individual self or your individual needs.
Yep, I agree with that. And I watch my friends, and I do have a friend that I've talked to about this, but she's single, and so she's pretty supportive. And another friend knows, and she, is kind of weird about it. She's okay, but you can tell she struggles with it. She wants to support me. She wants to be on my team. She knows that I'm having a hard time, but at the same time, oh my gosh, if she's stepping out, maybe my husband's gonna,
Right.
I think it brings up a lot of icky feelings for people.
Sure.
And she just can't put herself in my shoes either. She just can't possibly, because she's in a normal, healthy relationship with a husband who's her life partner, who they, shares everything with her. He can go to the store for her. He can, pay the bills. He can, handle getting the oil changed and, deal with the children.
Right.
So I don't think people who aren't in my boat can wrap their head around it. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly possible, but I think we can all do a little bit more to take a walk in somebody else's shoes and imagine what it could be like to be in your position. Right.
Yep.
So just say a little bit more about, what it was like to begin your relationship with your affair partner and rediscover and discover new capacities for joy.
It was unbelievable. I mean, I didn't know I was missing things so much, to be honest with you. And I had actually thought during my relationship with my husband, I actually thought something might be wrong with me. Like that I just wasn't, like, maybe I was having female trouble. Maybe my hormones weren't right. Why wouldn't I want to have sex with this man?
I hear this a lot.
Yeah. So I actually thought, but so when I met up with my AP for the first time, my therapist, she wanted to know, and she wanted me to call her when I was done. She was worried. She wanted to make sure I was okay meeting a strange guy. And then she's like, you need to call me before you have sex. I just want to know where you are and that you're okay. And of course, like I saw him, and then 2 days later, I saw him again and said, well, bring condoms.
Yeah.
And I didn't call her. And so, but it was amazing. I mean, just being touched, kissing. I hadn't kissed my husband in ages, even when that's so intimate, right? I mean, it's almost as intimate as anything else. And so I hadn't kissed my husband in way longer than we were still having sex, and I wasn't kissing at all. I mean, I was turning around and hoping for a 5-minute quickie, and take
stick
care
it
of
in and get it out.
Yeah, exactly. Doggy style. Thank you very much. Quick.
Right.
I don't have to look at them. I definitely don't have to kiss them.
Right. Wait, can I interrupt and ask a question here? So you were saying that, like, even as your husband's disease has progressed, he still wanted to be intimate.
Yes.
How have you navigated that?
So it got to the point where I had to just sit down and tell him that I'm not interested anymore, and I'm no longer going to have sex with him, and it'll never happen. I'm done. And he was extremely upset. And I said, then divorce me. Because I was kind of like, hey, that solves my problem. He's got kids. He's got grown kids from a previous marriage. I'm like, off you go.
Wow.
Send you to one of them. And so I said, feel free to check into divorce if you want. Of course, he was at the point there that he was already starting to have trouble, and I don't think. But I also asked him, hey, he's a very good-looking guy. There's no reason he should be having this kind of intimacy as well. It breaks my heart that he's not able to enjoy what I am, and I'm okay if he did. I was like, hey, let's have an open relationship. You know? You're free to go do whatever you want. I'm not here to hold you back. I don't want to do it with you anymore, but that shouldn't mean that you can't ever have sex again. That's insane. So, but of course he's totally old school and there was no way that was going to happen.
Okay.
So that's that.
Okay.
We're done. And it was really difficult, and it still comes up sometimes.
Yeah, I bet.
And he's really pissed about it. And I just say, you know what? I told you it's not going to happen. I don't feel that way about you anymore. And there's nothing you can do to change that. I love you, but I don't want to have sex.
I am so impressed. I can imagine the number of people who would just be like, well, I'll just keep doing it every now and then, just turn around, close my eyes, hope it's 5 minutes, stick it in, get it out. Like, I am so impressed that you made the choice to say, I'm not going to do this.
And it actually, like the last time I did it with him, I don't want to say rape because that's not the right word, but it felt like a violation to me.
Sure.
I didn't want it. I didn't want his penis inside of me. Right. And it just felt wrong. Right. And I finally said, you know what? No, I'm sorry if this is going to upset him, but I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And it's, I'm not going to sacrifice my, happiness or whatever for him. For his sexual gratification, he's got 2 hands. He can take care of business. There was like a point. It was like a point that it was like a light went off in my head, and I said, no more. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. No, I think
it took me a while to find, to decide that I was going to have an affair too. I just stopped and didn't do it for a while.
Yeah. I just want to call something out here for everybody in every relationship. I think this speaks to a really important point about owning our bodily autonomy. Like, even if we are choosing to remain committed to someone, or at least remaining, keeping our offer open to stay committed to someone. Right. And to just put it out there for your husband and say, look, this is where I am. This is how it's going to be. And if you would prefer a different arrangement, let's talk about that.
Yes. Right. Exactly. So, there's nothing, and I can't imagine I'm the only person in a long-term marriage that at some point decides they really don't want to have sex with their partner anymore.
Yeah. For sure.
I think it's pretty common that dead bedrooms are a pretty situation, I think. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't as often hear people saying, look, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm not going to have sex with you anymore.
Right.
What are we going to do about this? I'm open to discussing the options.
Right. Yeah. For me, it was just, I couldn't hide it anymore. I didn't want to. I wanted him to know too. It wasn't fair to him to just, keep thinking if he just tries a little harder. I could watch him. He was like trying to do all the things and bring me flowers and, send me love notes and do all the sweet things. And I in my head, I'm going, there's nothing you can do that's going to get your penis back inside me.
Yeah.
So, I love you very much. I do, but I just don't want to have sex. And you can't meet those needs for me. And it's sad because I have those needs. And I don't want to live without that kind of intimacy. I just can't have it with the person I'm married to.
Sure. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, even if dementia isn't part of their picture.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I sort of lost the thread here, but getting back to your affair partner.
Yes.
Let's just, tell me more about what this was like to be like, oh my God, I've gone from having a mediocre sex life to a non-existent sex life to thinking maybe I never get to have sex again to having what you've got now.
So it's just, well, first of all, it's taught me a ton. I know that for the rest of my life, I can enjoy having sex. Whether it's with him or somebody else.
Yeah.
absolutely. I am not going to ever lose that whole new relationship energy feeling. It's a total high. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be loved. And I mean, he tells me how beautiful I am all the time.
Yeah.
He tells me how fantastic I am. And he's amazing in bed and he does anything I want. And we're constantly going into Lover's Lane or, doing new things. And I'm sending him videos about, hey, let's try that, and oh my gosh, it's just so exciting. I don't ever want to lose that. That's a part of my life that was so dead for so long that I didn't even know I was missing it that much.
Right.
Turns out fantastic. And I don't ever want to stop doing it.
Yeah. And I hear this from a lot of folks too, who, either got married fairly young and didn't have a whole lot of sexual experience before their marriage or didn't have any sexual experience before their marriage. And they're like, I just thought I didn't really like sex. And interestingly, I hear this from men sometimes too. It's not only women.
Right.
And then they have an affair and it's like, oh.
Right. That was exactly it. The light bulb went off. I mean, the first time we were together, I was like, wow, everything of mine works really well. Like I hadn't been able to get, I don't know how to say this.
Just say it. You can say all the words.
I have not, I hadn't gotten wet in 10 years, even when I was by myself, and all of a sudden I am so excited to be with this person. And those feelings were just, it was just wonderful. And I was so sad that I'd missed out on that for so long, and again, you only have one life. And so, why don't you just live it to the fullest? And for me, it's wonderful. I mean, I'm going to go see him as soon as I'm done talking to you.
Can't wait.
My sexy panties on. I'm ready.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So, you mentioned that you have a really nice setup that allows for the logistics of your affair to be fairly feasible for you.
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about how you lucked out on that.
Yeah, I really did because he was pretty, I don't want to say on lockdown, but he and his spouse were working from home together. So, I'd have to meet him out and we'd either be in a car or a hotel room or whatever.
Yeah.
And very soon into our relationship, COVID hit for one thing, but they had a situation where they have another house and they had bought that because the school district was better for their daughter. Our daughters are almost the same age and we both just have one. And so they had this house to have residency so that their daughter could go to that school. Turns out they got busted and lawyers got involved. And so the wife immediately moved into the other house with the daughter to try to, get through this and not get busted. Well, because of COVID, everything kind of got crazy and it all got lost in the shuffle and they never got in any more trouble. But the wife and the daughter have stayed at that house. And so he has his own house.
Yeah. And meanwhile,
go there.
Your spouse is at work for a good part of the day every day.
He's at work for, 9 hours. And again, I'm self-employed and I have my own business, but I can work whenever I want to. So, and he was self-employed. Now he's working for a company, but he's got tons of time and he works from home. Yeah. So again, I can go, a lot of times I'll drop my husband off super early and get over to him and I'll spend an hour and a half in bed with him before he starts work. And then I can bring my work over there and work with him. Yeah. And then have lunch and go home. I mean, we see each other all the time. My problem is, I think his wife will be moving back in and stuff.
Awful. But wait, before we talk about that and how heartbreaking that is.
Yeah.
Look at this, just thunderstorm of good fortune.
Oh my gosh. It was unbelievable that the universe just decided to hand to me. I mean, maybe it's the yin and the yang of Alzheimer's versus,
Sure.
But whatever it is, I'll take it. But you know what? I pursued this. I mean, I pursued this. And had I found that he was too locked down, I would have pursued somebody else. Yeah. I was determined to find somebody. And I have a lot of time during the day. And I know there are plenty of men my age that do too. Some are in early retirement, some are self-employed, blah, blah, blah. You definitely can find a person that's going to match your, the amount of time you want to spend.
Oh my God. Wait, just hang on a second. May every single deity and every known pantheon bless you for saying all of that. This is so important, everyone who's listening. When you know what you want and you trust that it is out there, you can have it.
Yes,
you can
will
find it.
You absolutely will.
As you very astutely pointed out, you do have to take action.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that was the thing. I was kind of in limbo for a while, and with my therapist decided to take that action, which was extremely uncomfortable in the beginning because you're out of your comfort zone and you are freaking out. But it turns out that those kinds of things, when you do get out of your comfort zone, are the things that pay off the most, I've found. And so, and I worked really hard to find him. And you know, in September, things.
Yeah. So, okay. Hang on. Let me just, I can't underscore this enough. Like what you're talking about is so important. Yes, getting what you want may require you to be uncomfortable, and you don't know exactly what it will take to get what you want and how long you will have to be uncomfortable. But look what's on the other side of that. If you're willing to go there and be there and do all the things and feel all of the uncomfortable feelings.
Right. But the feelings you get after that are amazing. I mean, it's so worth it. It's so and anyway, if you don't try, you're just stuck in the same situation you've been in forever. And inaction does nothing for you. I mean, I had nothing to lose, you know.
It does do something for people. And that is, it allows you the opportunity to stay in familiar discomfort. And a lot of people prefer familiar discomfort to unfamiliar discomfort.
Right.
And that's fine. But the only way that you're going to get anything new and potentially better is by being willing to experience unfamiliar discomfort.
Right.
Yeah.
Like me being here on this podcast.
Exactly.
So anyway.
Okay. Now, and I mean, like, let's just first of all, let's just recognize for a second how awesome your current situation is. Let's acknowledge all the good things about it.
It's fantastic.
Okay. Now tell us about what may be happening in September.
Well, you know, we'll have to see. I mean, I've been to therapy a lot.
Wait. Just reiterate like what the plot twist may look like.
Well, okay. So it's basically a situation where he's completely home alone all day up until about 6 p.m. Then he goes to the other house, spends a couple hours, you know, with the family, and then goes back to the house.
Okay.
So he's home alone all the time. So I can see him all the time, whenever I want, talk to him on the phone, you know, all the things. When she moves back in, they're working from home together. Even talking to him on the phone is going to be hard. You know, the only way I'm going to see him is if he's out, like on a, you know, having a meeting or something. I mean, I don't understand how this is going to work. He keeps saying, you know, stay positive. I'm going to figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Give me a chance. And that's very sweet. And I absolutely will. But the bottom line is, even though I do love him, you know, and I love to be with him, if he can't give me what I need, I will find it.
Yeah.
And that sounds cold, but, you know, if he's going to choose to stay, you know, if he's choosing his situation, his marital situation, and he's just going to accept the way it is and want me to sort of fit into that.
Right.
You know, when it's convenient for him. And he's going to be very sad about the fact that we can't be together. I know, because he adores this, but you know, that's the way it's going to be. He's going to ultimately choose his wife, you know, even though they're in a completely dead bedroom and have been for 15 years, but he's not going to get divorced. And frankly, I don't want him to, because I wouldn't marry him. There's a lot of things about him I don't like, but I love having sex with him and spending time with him. So the bottom line is we're just going to have to wait and see. I am open, you know, I can't dwell on the future. You know, you have to be in the now. You can't project what may or may not happen, because anytime I start thinking about or going down a rabbit hole of what may or may not happen in a situation, whatever happens is never what I think is going to happen.
Well, that's for sure.
You know what I mean? So I can't go down that rabbit hole. I just have to wait and see. I mean, who knows? Maybe maybe one of them will decide to work at one house and one will decide to work at the other. I mean, I just don't know. I'm going to wait and see.
No. Okay. Wait. Before you get to the bet, I want to underscore that everything you've just said applies in spades to just about any relationship and just about any infidelity situation, right? People are going to choose to do things that we may not love at times, but ultimately all we get to do is decide how we're going to respond to their choices.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Right. So, and I already know how he's going to be. So, yeah, it's up to me to decide whether or not I'm going to be okay with it.
Right.
Whether or not I'm going to accept that and be okay. I mean, I'm not going to just go along and be angry and be pissed off the whole time and just be like, this isn't fair. And I mean, if I don't like it, move on.
Exactly.
And because I deserve to have this kind of happiness. And I am positive. The other thing about having an affair is that if you're a woman in a large metro area, you have like zero trouble finding pretty much anything you want. So, I mean, I learned that quickly on Ashley Madison. So, and I'm, I all the Reddits, the subreddits and all of the things. I mean, there's no trouble as a woman finding a person very quick. I think men struggle a lot more with that. So I feel very confident that, I mean, there are more fish in the sea and I'll be okay. I'll be sad, but I'll move on, and I'll move on pretty quickly too. Cause I'm not here to be somebody else's, I need to look out for me, and my own happiness. And I'm not here to just fit into what, I'll be sad.
Yeah. And I think this is such an important point that a lot of people struggle with, even in situations that are different from yours in terms of like some of the facts. We often think that our happiness and our fulfillment and great sex and all the things we really like are dependent upon one person.
Yeah.
Or that can only come to us through one person.
Yeah.
And, there's, everyone is uniquely precious. Every individual is uniquely wonderful, but that does not mean that everything we desire can only come to us through and with one person.
Yeah. I mean, it took me into my, late 40s to figure that out.
Yeah.
So, because I really did think that, I mean, my husband traveled so much, I could have cheated any time. And I just didn't. I was like, no, we're in, this is it. This is how we're going to be. And we're a partnership. And but yeah, it turns out that, and I truly believe this. I don't think that one person can satisfy all your needs. And frankly, I don't think that you should put that burden.
Yeah.
I just don't think, I don't think marriage is really meant for like the procreation and making children and raising a family. But I don't necessarily think that, I mean, it's great when people are married 50 years and congratulations. That's fantastic. But I don't think that's the norm. I mean, I think that people outgrow each other.
Sure.
They just stick with it because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you do. I mean, that's what my AP does.
Right.
He's not particularly thrilled about his situation at all, but he will never upend it. He will never change it because he's comfortable.
Right.
And he gets to have me. Right. So, but he'll never change. Unlike me, he will stay with the status quo because it's easier.
Yeah.
Just like what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, for some people it works to have a lifelong quote unquote marriage and to, stay monogamous for a long time. And that's fine. If that works for you, that is wonderful and great.
Right. Exactly.
And the notion that that's how it should be, or that you have to do it that way, or else there's something wrong. Not helpful, people.
Right.
Not helpful.
Yeah. And I just don't think people I honestly don't think people are wired that way. I mean, I think people do come together and stay together to raise a family or to start a life together. But eventually, I think for most people, things get, boring. But now you're intertwined. Now your lives are intertwined. Now your extended family is intertwined. Now your finances are intertwined.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to get out of it because you're just so it's easier to just stay.
It seems impossible to get out of it.
Right.
Let's just clarify that. It seems impossible to a lot of people to get out of it, for sure. For sure. So it does seem easier to stay. And that, it's certainly true that disentangling a shared life takes some doing.
Right.
And there will be some emotions involved in doing so. But the question is, do you want what's on the other side of that bad enough to go through all that stuff?
Right.
And a lot of people preemptively decide that the answer is no, because it's going to be uncomfortable, or they're sure it's going to be hard or whatever. Right. And all of that may be true to an extent, but staying put in a situation you aren't happy with has its toll as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, if you want to sit and sort of be mediocre and, kind of just live a life that's sort of, boring but comfortable,
Yeah.
that's fine. But for me, and it was that walk, listening to the songs, thinking, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm never going to have these kinds of feelings again,
Yeah.
and I want them.
Yeah.
So that, for me, I decided it was okay. But, everyone
Yeah.
has to make up their own mind about what they want to do and whether they want to go out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really the critical thing here. You mentioned something that I think is really important. And you've said, like, I don't have any guilt about this.
Right.
And I think the first time you told me that, it almost sounded like you were kind of like disclosing something that might be kind of strange.
You know what, I was surprised by it, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, I actually was. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't have
Yeah.
any guilt because I deserve this.
Right.
This
Right.
is for me, and
Right.
I'm not hurting him. How on
Right.
earth am I hurting him? I wasn't having sex with him before. He has no idea, and I'm better to him in so
Right.
many ways. So it's
Right.
just for me, zero guilt.
Right.
And I know a lot of people probably. I read a lot of things, like all the little groups and stuff like that. And I know
Yep.
there's a lot of guilt that goes around.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you're having that much guilt, then maybe you should just get divorced,
Right. Right.
and move on.
Right. Right. Well, here's the thing. I mean, we can either change our thinking about a situation or we can change the situation itself. Right. And, all of the things you're telling me, like we weren't having sex before, he doesn't even know what's going on. I'm
Mhm.
better to him and for him because I'm doing this.
Mhm.
Like we can all choose to look at the benefits of a situation.
Right. This doesn't take away any of my time with him.
Right.
I still
Right.
spend so much time with him, and
Right.
I do so many things for him, and even my AP will buy him little presents like tools and different things
Aw,
that
that's cute.
to try to help,
Yeah.
But it's just there's no I don't there's really no downside.
Yeah.
There really isn't.
Yeah.
So, and I go to the worst case scenario that he does find out, and I play that in my head and I think,
Sure.
okay, you know what? I'll just be honest with him and
Right.
tell him. And what's
Right.
he going to do? I mean,
Right.
we're at the point where I'm his caregiver till death do us part. And so,
Right.
if I do get found out, well, but I take great pains to make sure that doesn't.
Sure.
And he's not a suspicious person. So he's never in my phone. We don't share accounts. We don't have, we don't do that kind of stuff anyway. We've never been like that.
Sure.
So he's not one of those. I know some spouses are very nosy and, very into the other person's stuff, but
Yeah.
we've never been like that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing for me that makes it easy.
Sure. Sure. And I just, just getting back to what you've chosen to believe about your situation. Yeah. Some people out there believe that there are absolute rights and wrongs,
Mhm.
right? And you can choose to believe those things if you want.
Yeah.
Right? We can all make those choices, but that doesn't mean that they are as true in any absolute sense that we may want to, as we may want to think that they are.
I mean, I remember early in my marriage, still being, pretty in love with my husband and,
Yeah.
Watching television shows about a husband that's cheating or something. I would be like, oh my God, that's disgusting. Who would do that? That is horrible. That is
Yeah.
the worst thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
Like, I was so preachy about it. I'm so
Yeah.
certain that this was just the worst thing possible.
Yeah.
And as time went on and I got older, I learned a lot more about the world and about myself and changed my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Life's an interesting teacher.
Yep. And I think a lot of people are just raised that way, that's just what it is. You just don't do it. And so they just automatically believe that and carry that belief into their marriage. And that's that. So.
Sure. And it's a lot easier to subscribe to black and white thinking than to allow for shades of gray.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, having a good therapist, helped me a lot to kind of unpack all of these feelings and
Mhm.
validate my feelings too, and let me know that, what I'm feeling is okay. And I mean, she does not specialize in infidelity by any
Mhm.
stretch. So, I
Mhm.
mean, this is, I'm one of her only clients. I think that she deals with this particular situation, but
Mhm.
she's
Mhm.
been amazing and
Mhm.
has really, helped support me and told me, I need to pursue things that are going to make me happy.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
amazing.
listened to her.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for her. I am so glad to hear that that was your experience. That is
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want to tell other people who might be in a situation like yours?
I guess I mean, first of all, you're not alone.
Right.
You know, nobody talks about this stuff. So you just feel like you're completely alone. If you have these feelings, if you are somebody who thinks, you know, I love my husband or I love my wife and I'm going to take care of them, but gosh, I really want to just have sex with somebody. You know, I really want to have touch. I really want to have intimacy. You're not alone. And you don't have to live, you know, you can choose how you want to live out the rest of this situation. So if you've got somebody who's got a disease, a degenerative disease that will ultimately end in death, and you're going to be the one taking care of them, you can choose how that's going to go. You're not a victim. You're not just, this life just didn't throw this at you, and now you just have to deal with it and cry and be a victim and say, oh, woe is me, you know, life sucks. That's not fair. That's crazy. You go out and get what it is you need. Go out and get what you want. There's so much in life. This is an opportunity for me to grow and to learn and, you know, take care of him. And that's what having an affair has taught me. It's actually changed my view of his diagnosis. Yeah. It's actually changed how I think of it entirely. Yeah. Right. It's almost like now it's something that's a job for me, but I enjoy it. I want to make him happy. I want to keep, you know, I wasn't feeling like that at all. I was so pissed off. I didn't care if he was happy or not. I was really pissed off about my whole situation. And this has taught me so much. So you're not alone, and you know, you're not a bad person for having needs and wanting to satisfy those needs. Yeah. That's more normal than you think. Yeah. Even though people don't talk about it, it's there. And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I am so glad that you were willing to share this story, because you saying all of these things from your perspective is even more powerful than me telling people you're not a bad person. Guilt is optional. It's okay to pursue your desires. In fact, it may be beneficial for everyone in your life for you to pursue your own desires. Yeah. You've illustrated all of these points so well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Loretta, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us.
Absolutely, Marie. I can't thank you enough for letting me talk. And again, this was something that was out of my comfort zone for sure. But I hope, I hope there's somebody out there that hears this that feels a little better.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people out there who are going to hear this and feel a little bit better.
Good. I'm glad. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Maria.
My pleasure. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in working with me and sorting out your unique infidelity situation, you can schedule an introductory coaching session with me through my website, mariemurphyphd.com. Loretta and I thank you so much for listening. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, we hope you'll head on over to iTunes to rate and review the show. Have a great week. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.